All right, the next movie on our list is Wayne's World 2. Jude, take it away.
1993, Wayne's World 2, rated PG-13 with a runtime of 1 hour 35 minutes. This had a budget of $40 million, so double the last one. Okay. What do you think this brought in?
With as successful as the first one? 200 million. I don't know.
V?
200.
201 million.
$72 million. Not nearly as successful as the original.
Yeah, you want to know a big part of the reason that it underperformed is because Paramount, not only did they rush it out, but they wanted to put it in these Christmas movie season, and it was up against like so much competition that it just kind of got buried.
Ooh, and what else came out in 93?
Schindler's List, Mrs. Doubtfire, The Pelican Brief, stuff like that.
Schindler's List won the Academy Award.
Yeah.
Not comedies though?
Like, not comedies.
It wasn't going up against any.
But like a lot of people don't want to see comedies in December. You know, they want to see like
the heartwarming
movies. Yeah.
Schindler's List.
Schindler's List was not heartwarming.
That's a deep ass movie. Jesus Christ.
Every time I hear about that movie though, it always takes me back to the Seinfeld episode where like, you were making out during Schindler's List.
You're a psycho.
How dare you?
It's kind of funny because the first Wayne's World, it was like the biggest like video rental movie like of all time.
Right.
Like it just killed on VHS, and the sequel just like failed on both like the rental and the theatrical release front. It's very weird.
Plus they had to pay Aerosmith for this one.
Well, spoiler alert.
Walken.
I didn't freaking like this movie. So.
No, I didn't.
June, take it away.
All right. Have you guys heard of the Aurora Rock Festival, Waynestock? No? It's okay, no one has. Not even the bands playing it. But when Wayne is visited by Jim Morrison in a dream, he's told that if he books them, they will come. According to the law of music festivals, if a band is booked to play an event, they will magically appear. All Wayne has to do is set up the festival, get his leather-clad roadies lined up, convince the Parks and Recreation Permits Department, come up with $5,000, and save Cassandra from the clutches of evil producer Christopher Walken before he jinxes the band and breaks up Wayne and Cassandra and marries her. It's almost too easy. Discuss.
Have you guys ever heard of the Fire Festival?
Yes.
Oh yeah, we watched the documentary.
It is literally the plot to this movie.
100%.
It actually happened in real life.
The Fire Festival mimicked this plot.
They were like, just book it.
Yeah. No.
According to Jim Morrison, they'll show up.
Book them and they will come is literally what they said during the Fire Festival.
Just feed them vodka. They won't notice.
Yeah. Like I watched that documentary about how that whole thing like fell apart.
It's a fascinating
fascinating documentary. But then like
watch that instead of this.
No, but it's weird though because I watched that a couple weeks ago and it's been in my head ever since. And I'm like, man, that is a freaking crazy story.
That really
How could that possibly happen? And then I watched this movie and I'm like, holy shit. It's literally the same thing.
Yes, some fucking goofball just decides I'm going to put on a festival. I'm sure it'll all work out.
Mike Myers out there freaking booking people he's actually never talked to. Like, oh yeah, we're going to have Aerosmith and all these people. And I'm like, that's literally what happened. And the whole thing fell apart, which it did in this movie too.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like kind of the theme of this movie is Wayne's trying to figure out what to do with his life. And the whole point of putting on the concert is to give his life like meaning beyond like just the Wayne's World show. And it's an interesting little kind of like through line, I think.
And flash forward to the end, which spoiler, if you haven't watched it, we're going to talk about it. The whole point was that Jim Morrison wanted to let Wayne know that it didn't matter what he did, Cassandra would still love him, but she shouldn't.
No. Absolutely not.
He's the worst.
He's terrible.
He spies on her. She has great news about her career. And as soon as she's like, yeah, my producer is going to do this for me. And Wayne immediately
gets jealous.
Fucking gaslights her. And he's like, oh, I'm so excited for you. And he's Bobby. He's the fucking worst boyfriend.
I also feel Christopher Walken was criminally underutilized in this movie. There's only one good scene where like they tried to get him to say a sphincter says what? And he's like, oh, I see. You want me to say what? Like, I don't know what you're trying to do. And like Wayne and Garth are just like, whoa.
The dancing scene was the best Christopher Walken
Christopher Walken dancing. You have to have him dancing.
It's really awkward.
Was it? Well, Christopher Walken is like a professional dancer. Like he's trained. Every movie.
He dances in like every movie.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's in his contract sometimes. He literally is like,
I'm not coming unless I can dance.
He dances in every movie. He dances in Catch Me If You Can. He dances in Blast from the Past. Every movie he's in, he has a little dancing number. Even The Rundown with Dwayne Johnson.
Huh.
He's the bad guy in that movie. He dances in that movie. It's like
I love
completely out of nowhere.
Christopher
Walken's amazing. Have you guys seen The Seven Psychopaths? I think that's a movie.
I have not seen it.
I
no.
believe I have.
Watkins is freaking awesome in that
Yeah.
movie. I think Rockwell is in that too.
Well, it was
I've not
funny
seen it.
because of the success of the first movie, they got like way more like cameos in this movie from like big actors who were like, "Yeah, I want to be in another Wayne's World
The
movie."
dinosaur from Jurassic Park.
Yeah, yeah.
That was not the same dinosaur. That was the freaking paper mache version.
It was another thing where I think like Jurassic Park had just come out when they were making this movie, and so like they had to like get a like Jurassic Park reference in there.
Yeah, it did kind of. It was weird though because I'm like I had my headphones in on, and I was listening to it with full audio, and all of a sudden you hear like, and then the freaking roar, and he opens up the blind. You got the flashlight, and I was like, oh shit!
I like how the Mirthmobile just has like a drink dispenser that like you can put like a glass of water.
Yeah,
up there.
they're really spending their money wisely.
I love
a
the
guy who had-
Mirthmobile.
I knew a guy who had a Pacer once. They're terrible cars.
Is this what's the rating on this movie?
PG-13.
I mean, they couldn't throw some boobs in this. Come
No,
on,
sir.
man.
It's not on PG-13.
No, sir. Not an SNL
They got
movie.
one. They got one F-bomb in it.
I'm not a fan of Aerosmith.
Really?
I'm
Oh,
not.
I love Aerosmith.
Aerosmith's probably one of the best concerts I ever been to.
Same.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm watching like I've seen this movie, or I haven't seen this movie. I watched this part, and I'm like, God, they're kind of over the top, aren't they? I was like,
Steven Tyler is like the best front man probably to ever live.
Yeah.
He's right up there, top 5 all time.
Steven
Really?
Tyler PJs.
Hmm.
Steven Tyler PJs.
anyway, I didn't like this movie, guys. I don't really know what else to say about it. It's not funny. Wayne is like the ultimate worst boyfriend.
Yeah.
He's the bad guy in the entire movie.
Yeah.
He treats his girlfriend like shit. He's jealous. He's
She's
insecure.
gonna get deported if she doesn't keep this record deal, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Concept.
they keep switching where she came from because
Yeah.
in the first one she's from Cambodia,
Yeah.
and this one she's from Japan.
She was born in
Oh, yeah.
Colombe. Yeah, so she's gonna have to get deported if she doesn't keep this record contract, and he's just like, blow it off for Waynestock.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
Yeah.
I didn't like the plot to it. I didn't like Wayne at all. I think he was more of a villain than a funny guy.
Where I felt the first movie was like a lot of funny stuff kind of put together for a movie. I felt like this movie was stuff that wasn't good enough to be in the first movie. You know what I mean? It's just like it was all this stuff kind of like randomly cut together.
So
It didn't and it felt really disjointed and didn't work. I did, however, like Naked Indian, weird Naked Indian guy.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of funny, you know. And dude, you know,
It's like,
and
did he really have
like-
to show you his crack?
I love the main roadie.
excessive, you know, that was kind of funny,
Yeah.
you know, but overall, I think the joke just kind of wore thin after a while.
It got grating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It started grating
Yeah.
on you, and I was like, Jesus, I could not wait for this movie to be over.
Right.
So there's actually like a story behind the making of this movie, which explains like why it's not quite up to par as the first one. And that is that originally there was an entirely different script to this movie. And the original script for Wayne's World 2 had Wayne and Garth basically forming their own country and seceding from the US after finding an ancient scroll. And this plot was basically lifted from a movie that Mike Myers grew up loving. It was a British comedy from 1949 called The Passport to Pimlico, something like that. and so like basically like he wrote this movie based off of like, you know, his love of this movie. And it was kind of like he took the plot of that movie and put Wayne and Garth in it. And they were well into like pre-production, like they were getting ready to shoot the movie when the studio executives at Paramount found out that Mike Myers had, you know, basically lifted the plot of this movie and they didn't have the rights to it.
Oh.
And so like Mike Myers got called into Sherry Lansing's office, who was the head of Paramount at the time. And funny enough, like she was there when I was working at Paramount. So like there was lots of talk about like how big of a, you know, bitch that Sherry Lansing could be. And so like she basically sat Mike Myers down and said, like, you just screwed us over with this like amateur hour bullshit. We've got a team of lawyers downstairs getting ready to take away your house, your car. We're going to ruin you.
What?
And Mike Myers like literally was
Oh
like,
God, I feel like that's karma.
pissing himself. And she was like, you go to Lorne Michaels' office, you lock yourself in that room and you don't come out until you have a script that we can start shooting in like 1 week. And so Mike Myers like literally like curled up in a fetal position and like cried for a bit, and then like and then he got to work writing this script. And so this script was like just thrown together like right before production started,
You
which
can
is
tell.
one of the
You can
reasons.
tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why it's like so all over the place. And it was like a last minute thing. But like, yeah, Mike Myers was so traumatized by that. He refused to work for Sherry Lansing or Paramount ever again.
Like I thought the trope about like the famous rock star coming to you in a dream and telling you how to like do something, it's clever and it's kind of funny and it has a little bit of, you know, Field of Dreams type thing, which is obviously what they were ripping off. But I'm like, it's funny on paper, like it could work, but for some reason with the way the humor style of Wayne's World it just doesn't mesh with the storyline. And I couldn't wait for that. I was like, please, when's the credit gonna roll? I'm so done with this movie.
One thing I do like about both these movies, they're both about the right length. They're both like 92, 93 minutes.
Yeah.
So, you know, if these movies were made today, they'd all be like 6 hours long and it would be brutal. So
There are two scenes in this movie that I find extremely funny. And the first scene is when Wayne meets Cassandra's father and they have the kung fu fight and they decide to switch to overdubbing so people don't have to read subtitles. And her father's voice is like so like, you know, like deep and like resonant.
Very well, if that is your custom.
It was like really funny.
We're watching the scene right now where the two nerds go up to
Bob Odenkirk.
I was gonna say, is that freaking Better Call Saul?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's Bob Odenkirk. Like, there's so many different cameos in this movie.
I didn't
It's
recognize
crazy.
them the first time. I was just like, oh, okay, the two nerds. I must have been checked out with this movie early on because I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah, what did you guys think of the kung fu scene though?
it was amusing. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, it was like, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
like-
I've seen that scene in other movies before, and yeah, it was definitely a callback.
Well, I just love like James Hong, who's the actor who plays.
He's in every
Every
movie
dad.
ever.
If you like he's so old, like you can see like when he's doing his own kung fu movies, he's like so bad at it.
Oh God,
Yeah.
his leg only goes like 2 feet off the ground. If that.
he's the Seinfeld Party of Five, right? Is that
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
from,
Yeah.
okay.
and
And-
he's tons of stuff.
And
Yeah.
Wayne like rips his shirt off and he's like, you know, like screaming and stuff like that. Like,
And then his shirt magically reappears during the fight.
yeah, and his jeans heal magically. Yeah, it's great. So I love that scene. I think that scene is extremely funny. And the next one that I really love is when they go to the gay bar and they start doing YMCA.
Yeah, that was funny.
You thought that was funny?
I did. But
Oh.
what was funny about it was they all immediately got in their positions and they all knew the choreography immediately. And I just thought it was clever. It
Like,
was
And
funny.
they were all dressed in like the different
Yeah.
outfits.
See, I thought that was like a real obvious setup. Like,
it was. It absolutely was.
It was like, oh, that was it felt forced and stupid to
but
me.
That was. I just thought it was funny.
Okay.
Talk
All
about
right,
obvious setups. Like there's a scene in this movie where they're like, hey, what's going on over here? And they're like, well, our job is to stack these boxes of chickens. And these guys' job is to walk back and forth every couple minutes with like a pane of glass.
Yeah.
And Wayne and Garth are like, I wonder if that's going to pay off later. And then like later on, like Wayne's car just like crashes through the watermelons, the chickens and the glass. And the guys who were working there is just like, our job here.
A little self-aware. That's clever. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's just,
Again, there's moments in this movie that are funny, but overall, I just found it really grating and kind of annoying, and I just wanted it to be done. I think I was Wayne's World out because I binge watched both movies at the same time, which I think probably was a mistake.
that's not a good idea.
There's too much Wayne's World.
And I wonder if it's like a first watch thing, because I'll say like I watched this one time when it came out and I've never watched it since.
Right.
And I hated it. But this time when I watched it, like almost 30 years later, it was funnier to me. I enjoyed it more this time than I did when it first came out. I think my expectations were so high for the sequel that it just disappointed on every level. And then when I watched it this time, I was like, that's just good fun.
Yeah.
Well,
So you guys are going to give this one a 4.
we need to talk
Don't
about
spoil it.
the best character in this movie, which is the super roadie Del Preston.
Oh my God, he's the best.
Okay.
His voice is so melodic, I could fall asleep to it.
Didn't you think it was a trifle unnecessary to see the crack in the Indian's bottom?
And the first time they meet him, he's like sleeping upside down in his flat. And they're like, do you always sleep like that? And he's like, yeah, it's something I learned from Keith Richards, which is probably why Keith can't be killed by conventional weapons.
That guy belonged in Spinal Tap.
Yes.
Like he feels like he got ripped from Spinal Tap and put in this movie. I was watching it, I'm like, oh man, he would have been funny in that movie.
The best part is where he's talking about how like he has to get a brandy glass full of brown M&Ms or Ozzy won't go on stage. And so he's like, so I broke into the sweet shop
I had to beat them to death with their own shoes.
But I've
That's
got
what-
those
that's a-
M&Ms.
Yeah, he's like, that's a story for another time.
But he keeps retelling the same story.
That's the thing. I think, honestly, he was actually a poser. I think he didn't actually do those things because he only has one story. But he's like, oh, he's this super famous roadie and he roads with all these other bands.
Hey,
I think it's,
Jim Morrison vouched for
I think
him.
it's bullshit. I think it's all bullshit.
Those are the stories every roadie tells.
Yeah, and it's also funny because as the movie goes along, he gets more and more unhinged. Like he's planning it like a military operation, and
Yeah.
he's like, remember to fire in 3-bullet bursts. The brown M&M thing though, like that's actually from like Led Zeppelin,
Yeah.
where they had it written into their contract that they would have like a bowl of M&Ms with all the brown M&Ms removed, and it wasn't because they were like prima donnas or anything, but they wanted to see like if the venue actually read the contract to make sure that like all the safety standards that they had put in the contract were fulfilled.
Clever.
And so like if they went someplace and they didn't have like the bowl with all the brown M&Ms removed, they know that they didn't read the contract and that all their stage equipment was in jeopardy. And
That's
so like they pulled
genius.
from it.
Yeah. Okay. See, I didn't know that. Like, I hear these stories all the time. It's a trope now in like the music industry. These hyper prima donna. Well, they made a joke about it in Spinal Tap. Like the sandwich bread's too small. Like it's a bit, right? They make fun of this
and
stuff
that
all
was
the time.
based off the brown M&M thing.
Yeah, I didn't know that it was just a thing to like check the venue. Oh, that's interesting. I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, and this one also has like one of the best cameos ever in a movie where like, so in the first one it was Alice Cooper, right? But in this one, Wayne stops at a gas station and he's like, can you tell me how to get to this place? And like the actor who's playing the old man mechanic starts telling a story and he's like really bad at it. And Wayne's just like, hey, could we get like a good actor in here? And they bring in Charlton fucking Heston to come in. And he gives this like big monologue that puts Wayne in tears. It's so good.
He's just like his tears streaming down his face, and he's like, "Thank you."
That was clever.
Very clever.
As beautiful as Tia Carrere was in the first one, she is ethereal in this
she's
one.
smoking.
I don't know what she did. She just grew out her bangs or something. But in this one, she was a 10 in the first one, and she's like a 20 in this
Cranked
one.
it up to 11.
She cranked it up. She's so beautiful, and everything she wears is fucking fire.
Yeah. All that
she's-
leather, like,
Oh my god!
yeah.
I was like,
I think it was putting in some work.
do I need leather? I think I need leather in my wardrobe.
I think you do.
Shut up, dude.
That would be great.
Talking about hot girls, Kim Basinger as
And Heather Locklear's in this.
yeah, Heather Locklear, but Kim Basinger plays Honey Horney
Honey horny.
or Miss Horny, and it was kind of funny because because of the slapdash nature of the script, like Dana Carvey kept feeling like Garth was getting shortchanged on screen time, and so he would come in and he would put in little story bits for Garth to do, and this was like his big thing, and he actually called up Kim Basinger directly, and he was like, please do this role for me, you're the one I want to do it with. And Alec Baldwin had to read the script and be like, you know what, this is pretty funny, you should do it, before Kim Basinger agreed to do it.
That's good.
But yeah, like we get Heather Locklear in this, we get Kim Basinger, and it's kind of funny because like the whole plot is that Kim Basinger's character like seduces Garth in order to get him to kill her husband.
So weird.
It is weird, but like it strangely it works. And then like we have Kevin Pollak as like the guy with the albino eye.
That's right. Yeah, I do remember him.
And there's this great scene where like they keep making eye references and pissing him off. And it eventually gets like, yeah, we'll take these contracts home and cross all the T's and dot the lowercase J's.
And like everybody in the office freezes and looks at them.
Which is a bit that they did in Boston Powers with the mole.
Yes.
Yes.
Mole.
I'm gonna chop it up and make some guacamole with it. Dude, those movies are so much funnier than these ones.
Oh, I can't wait till we watch
Who
those
is
someday.
the actress that plays like the Wayne lookalike?
You mean the Garth look?
The Garth.
Or sorry, yeah, the Garth lookalike.
I forget her name.
Oh, I can't remember her name, but it was driving me crazy. I need to look it up.
There's a bit in this where they have to go to London and they make a joke like, oh, the freaking studio's not going to pay for us to go to London. I'm surprised they're not just going to hire a couple of extras. And then the next scene they cut, and it's
obvious extras.
It's an the airplane. Before they get there, the airplane on a wire is just floating by, and then they show up in there, and it's clearly extras. Like there's bad wigs, super skinny, like awkwardly sized people, and they're like supposed to be Garth and Wayne. It was goofy. That was a funny bit. I was like, okay, that's clever. That's like very SNL style. I like that kind of stuff. So
yeah, that's a big Mike Myers thing. Like that's very much his humor. I also like the fact that Chris Farley got a bigger cameo in this movie than the first one.
He was the roadie dude.
Yeah, and he has that scene from
he's got the long hair. He's got the same blonde wig you have.
and there's that scene from Officer and Gentleman where Wayne just like, you're worthless. What are you even doing here? And he's like, I got nowhere else to go.
Officer and a Gentleman.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, so like in the first Wayne's World, there was a scene where like Wayne has to like, make this tearful speech, and he's like, and I never learned to read. And Cassandra's like, is that true? He's like, yes. Well, everything except the never learning to read part.
You guys are making me like this movie more.
It's funner. It's more funner. Yeah. It's more fun to talk about than it was to watch.
It is.
Yeah. It's probably one of those movies where you need to like watch it with your friends.
Oh yeah.
Have a few drinky drinks and you know.
I agree.
Olivia Diabo. What do I know her from?
I don't know.
She's probably going to blow your mind when you see what she really looks like here in a second.
Oh, I know what it is. Okay.
What is it?
She was in Point of No Return. She was also in Conan the Destroyer.
What? Oh, she was the princess.
Yep.
She is fine. Yeah, I remember now.
Add Conan in there, and Vader's like, yeah.
I know. She was the chick that was being protected by Wilt Chamberlain.
Okay.
At Bambata.
I'll have to find clips of that.
Princess who had to like go get the horn thing.
I was like, I fucking know her from
I know, right?
something.
Like, man, where is she from?
I'm fresh out of shit to talk about with this movie. Do you
Let's
want
wrap it up.
Yeah, I want to do final thoughts. So what do you got?
I was gonna give this thing like a 2, right? Because it's not as good as the original Wayne's movie by far, but I guess it does kind of have its bits that are funny. The cameos are way off the rails in this one, way more than the first one, and it's just an extension of more Mike Myers Wayne's World stuff. But I think the first movie is way more clever.
Yeah.
And this movie gets to be a little bit grating after a while. But I think I'll give it a 2.5, simply because it's not as good as the first one, but. Based on our conversation, I think I had more fun talking about it a little bit than I did actually watching this thing last night. So yeah, 2.5. I think I'm right there. So,
right. Jude, is this a 5-star movie for you?
No, it's not. And R to the Icky, thank you. She was also the older sister in The Wonder Years. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another show that was before my time.
So yeah, I'm gonna keep this in the SNL movie realm. And the first one, I think, was just so successful in like financially and like comedically, and it was just a better story. This was thrown together half-assed, and I like hearing all of the behind the stuff makes me dislike it even more. The first time I saw it, I absolutely hated it. I thought it was funnier upon rewatch 30 years later than it was when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, this is just very middle of the road. This is a 2.5 Christopher Walkens out of 5.
Oh man, she finally came to her senses.
I'm gonna have a reckoning.
Katish, final thoughts. Give it a rating.
Yeah, I can remember going to see this movie in the theater and being so excited because I loved the first movie so much, and walking out of the theater very disappointed that it didn't live up to like the standard that the first movie set, because it is a inferior sequel. Like it's definitely one of those things where the quality dropped off, and knowing the story behind like how it was put together, it makes sense now, like why it wasn't as funny, because like not as much time and care and effort, and plus like Paramount kind of rushed this out. I think it came out like a year and a half after like the first one hit big, so it was a very rushed production time, and the care that the first one had, you could tell like just wasn't put into it. So like overall, like there are a lot of really good gags that work in this movie, and they still hold up. And I had a lot more fun rewatching it this time around than I have in the past. And I think that like just revisiting it with you guys, the nostalgia goggles are on a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I would give it, normally I'd give it like a 2-star, but I'm going to give it like 3 brown M&Ms out of 5 for just the nostalgia value of it, because I do think it holds up well despite it being such an old comedy. But you can tell like there are little kernels of Mike Myers' genius in there that eventually translate into like, the Austin Powers movies and stuff.
I'm really bummed out that he's kind of a dick.
Yeah.
That really takes the wind out of my sails on this guy. Okay, so for me, I gave the first one 3. I'm going to give this one a 2. It's a star less, a little hokey, a little thrown together. The plot wasn't that great. I would say go watch the Fired Festival documentary.
Yeah.
That, just imagine
That's
that.
funnier.
That's funnier. And it's like real life Wayne's World 2. It's so crazy. So yeah, two-star movie.
Instead of Aerosmith, you get Ja Rule.
Ja Rule.
I really want a donut now.
I do too.
Yeah.
What the hell? You guys want to go get donuts?
Dude, I really want a local San Mikita's Donuts because that was like a legendary like Chicago hockey player that that was based on.
Dude, what if we start a franchise here in Vegas for the Golden Knights Donut Shop?
I'm sure it's already done. They have official donuts.
Do they have official Golden Knights donuts?
Yeah, there's an official Golden Knights and Raiders, everything in this town.
Everything. Yeah.
There was actually a great scene in this movie where they go up to the drive-thru at Mikita's Donuts and they have this thing where it's like, if we get your order wrong, the order's free. Yeah. And so they keep like kind of dropping out their voices like it's
Is
a
that
bad
why
intercom.
they did that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then like the guy who reads back the order gets it like perfect.
Yeah. I remember watching that and I'm like, I didn't understand why they were doing it. But that was a pretty funny bit thinking about it.
What I look at when I see movies like this with that scene in particular is like, the donuts are only 49 cents. What weird world is this?
But it's funny because like their routine after completing the day's show is to go to Mikita's Donuts and get coffee and crawlers. And I'm like, hey, it's like us going to Grouchy John's and getting coffee.
Do you remember when we were all young enough to drink coffee at night?
Speak for yourself. I was up till midnight doing a watch party last night.
I did that at work the other day.
Drank coffee.
I had like
Back
a big old
out.
fat cup of coffee at like 10 o'clock at night.
Oh no.
I get off work at 11:30. I stared at the wall. I stared at the ceiling till 2 a.m. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
I can't do that anymore.
I had half a cup of coffee at 5 o'clock at night one time because I was going to a midnight show. And I was like, I need to be able to stay up for this show. I was up for 2 days.
2 days.
2 days. My body is a wonderland.
Man.
Yeah, I don't drink coffee after 7 o'clock.
Yeah, that was a fun 2 days.